Would you like to change the way you use Excel forever? Because with the power of macros, Excel can do a lot of your work for you. You can automate repetitive tasks with just one click. And today we're going to create your first macro. So even in this age of AI where artificial intelligent agents can create macros for you, do lots of stuff for you as well, it is super important that you have some control and understanding about the process and what's going on. As you start learning about macros, they don't need to be complicated. They can just be simple little helpers that work with your daily tasks and help you get your job done a lot quicker. So in today's video, we won't be going into any heavy coding or anything stressful. We'll just create a simple little macro, your first one, and we'll do that together. So let's get in there, shall we? Creating macros is, in the first instance, simply a matter of having a task that you wish to do, generally a repetitive task, because macros are about saving you time. And with that task, having the clear steps that you need to achieve, and then going about recording those steps so that the macro can be replayed when you next need it to reproduce those particular tasks. Now, there's a few things that need to be in place before you can actually start to record a macro, and a few little tricks and traps along the way about storing them and therefore being able to reuse them in the future, which is the whole point of what we're about. Now, first off, at the tab level here, I've got a number of tabs that are available to me. Some of them aren't default ones, but that is not including the one that we want. Now, as I say, not a default tab in a couple of instances, but so to get a non-default tab displaying in the ribbon, we simply right-click and then choose Customize the ribbon. And in the right-hand column, you can see here the developer group. Now, that's not ticked by default. And if we tick that, click OK, we now have developer. And the first section over here is to do with some macros, tools such as this macros and record macro, which are the ones that we want. Now, what we have already in place is I've recorded a macro earlier. I'm just going to demonstrate it. It's not going to actually produce this section here, but something like that, just to be very quick and easy. But that's what we'll be working towards, is reproducing this little header so that we can place that on the top of a brand new worksheet so that we can do some new reporting. What we are doing in this instance is we're reporting for a shipping company who runs a container division, shipping containers around the world. So just keeping track of the journeys that some of the ships have taken and to record some details around those. That's what our task is. I have already recorded a quick little macro, something abbreviated to our final task. So let's go about running that macro. So if we go to the macros tool here, you can see this lists my macro, and it's located in what's called the personal macro sheet. So now what's left to do is to run our headers macro. So we just make sure that's selected and then click run. And that's it, really. You can see how quick that did that little piece there. And so it creates a heading with some text and font colors. and also our headings here, bolds them as well. And it's a bit hard to detect, but we've got a dark line underneath these two sections here. And we've also set the view, so we're ready to enter in by having frozen those panes at the top of the screen. So if you had to do that on a daily or even a weekly basis, that could be a little annoying. So that's why creating the macro gives you back some of your time so you can actually go ahead and do some work. All right, so just to demonstrate a little further, I'm in another workbook totally, and if I click in A1 and choose developer macros again and run that macro we created earlier, because it was in a particular location, which we'll talk about soon, just runs as it should and creates that little header for us. So let's have a look how we can do that in detail. Right, so what we're doing is simply going to start doing our task after having clicked record. So just as you might record your voice or record a video, that's what we're doing in this case. We're recording our actions. So if we click here in A1 to start with, and then click developer and the option to record macro. Now let's look at what we have to fill in with this dialog here, record macro. So firstly, giving the macro a name, and that is so we can recognize it in a list down the track, but also the name must meet a few criteria. So firstly, it must start with a letter and not include any spaces, but you can have letters, numbers, and underscores. So that underscore option is very good because if we enter in the name of our macro as header and report. So header report as the name of the macro, and you'll note the underscore makes that a bit more legible. Now, to kick it off, we have to go through the option of developer macros and then run the macro. That's the long way around. We can use what's called the shortcut key, so we can create our own little key combination, but it can't clash with any existing Excel key shortcut. So it will take care of that for you. So entering in a letter there would allow you to see a key combination. So for example, if I type in M for macro, that's already taken. So Control Shift M would start this particular macro. But I won't bother with that for today. And where we store our macro is going to be important. Now let's drop down our choices. So we've got our personal macro workbook, a new workbook, or this particular workbook that we're in. Now, if we chose this workbook, we would have to open the workbook and then run the macro from within that workbook. The same with any other new workbook that we created as well for that other saving choice. But that's where the personal macro workbook comes in. Every time you open Excel, this opens hidden in the background so that you can run your macro on any workbook that you wish to. So that is the ideal spot to keep your everyday macros so that you can just run them from wherever and you don't have to think about where you've stored the macro. It's in your central personal macro workbook. And I would recommend for all your macros to write a little description about what it does. That will help you in the future, or anyone else for that matter who might have to use or inherit your workbooks. So a very good way to just keep track of what it's going to do. So there's no surprises when you open the macro. So having recorded our name and where it's going, let's click OK. And now the record macro button reads as stop recording. And also down the bottom here is another option to stop the recording in the status bar. So let's go about performing our action that we wish to record. So I'll start here in A1 and type in our header for our report. And with that in, we'll choose to enter our date, detail, and I'll put in just a generic today, but of course you might wish to put in there a specific date. So equals today, we'll just put in today's date and enter, finishes that off. Now if we come down, let's enter some of our headings that we wish to include in our report. So this is a marine number that identifies what vessels are in the water, and the country is the country flag where it is. Whoops, little mistake there. Let's leave it there and we'll see about how we might fix that up later. So then let's continue on. Captain and total crew number, total weight and value. Now I'll enter that. So we're still recording. Let's now add in our formatting. So we're going to select across here and back on the home tab, bold that, background of this nice little blue, which is our company blue. I'll choose a white font color so we can see it. And we can shortcut this by simply choosing the format painter, my favorite friend. It does, however, change our date to general. So we'll choose short date to fix that up. Now with that selected, let's add a bottom border. Select our headings here, bold those. Top and bottom borders might be nice here. Thick one at the bottom. Click underneath, and that's a good spot to freeze our paints. Now that is all we're doing for this one. You could do any other little bits and pieces you want. In fact, I might do one more, and that is I'll set the column widths. So if I double click, they're all set, just this column A. Take it back a wee bit, back in column A, and we can now stop recording. Now, there's a few things we can do, and that is to test this out on a blank workbook. But firstly, if you remember, we made a small error and left it there. Let's have a look at how we might fix this up by actually going into the back end and looking at our code. So if I select from Developer, Visual Basic, and what might look a little confusing at first, let's just talk our way through what we have in front of us here in the Visual Basic for Applications Personal workbook. Now, in this personal workbook, you can see we have this VBA project here, but it also lists any other files you may have open. So just to clear the decks a bit, let's just collapse those two, just leaving us with our personal Excel SB book. And if we click on module 1, that's where things are. But we can see over here, here is our code for our one that we created earlier, which is this one here, header report. This other one was that example I showed you with not as much happening. Now, under the header report macro, we can see some commands, some code. Now, within the sub procedure called header report, these ones here with the single quote are just text, which gets ignored, but all of these are the actual commands that VBA will run and perform the actions that are here. So let's find that country that was misspelt. There it is there. So if we type in the correct spelling of the word country, and let's now save what we've just done. Now, for example, you can see and hopefully make some sense of what we're looking at here is that in the active cell where we start the macro from, it will enter that text in quotes. Then it will go down to cell A3 and select that. And in that cell, we'll put in the date colon text, and then going down to cell C3 in that, or sorry, across to C3, and in that we'll put in that equals today formula that we did as well. Then all those headings that we did, and then it's selecting colors and also some other bits and pieces that you can see here. When we reset the date format back, and then just adding some lines and some more lines. And the final things are freezing the panes that we did, and then to auto fit the column widths. And then that's the end of our sub procedure. So to leave this, you could close it or just minimize it for now. And now we're back at our spreadsheet. So now let's open up a blank workbook to test out our macro that we've now corrected. So once again, developer, going to macros, and that's our one there that we're just been working in, header report. Click run, and there we have it, the word country instead of the misspelt word. So we've got that all working now, and voila, we can go on and finish off our report. So I hope you are finding that interesting. Just have a fun time with it all. Just experiment, see what you can do. You may get stuck. You may find that your macros don't work as you intend. That's all part of the learning process, and they will allow you to learn and get better. Now, this is just the start of the journey with macros. Macros become more and more useful if you can do things such as work across many rows and do a certain repeating features. So looping is the terminology. If you can get input from the people running the macro, so entering in certain data as the macro progresses and then branching off to do actions based upon responses, clicking buttons and so on. And it gets really, really special and lots of fun when you get to that level. So I hope you give it a go. Just try something simple at first. If at first you don't succeed, keep trying. And I hope you enjoy what you do. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.